All right. Hello, everyone. First of all, hopefully you can see me and hear me okay. Let me know in the chat if you can, because this is my new audio video setup. I still got some tweaking to do, but I got a new DSLR camera. It's the Sony 6400, I think it was. Yeah, super crisp, looks good. And then I got some lighting. You can actually see in the background. Whoop! There's the key light, and then I got a little ring light coming up this way, which helps out a lot. Still getting some shadowing. I actually played with that the other day and realized it's just me. I'm a tired parent, so any discoloring or shadowing there is actually because I'm tired. And then finally, I got a new shotgun mic to kind of keep the frame clear, but there's a little echo with it, I think. So I'm still kind of like toying with the like the sound on that, like how much it comes in and the audio levels, because it actually goes through the camera. It's just a cheaper shotgun mic. I just wanted to try it out to see if it actually could work for things like this live stream. For podcasts and stuff, I'll use my Audio Technica or whatever over here, which is of course better and more direct. But for things like this, I like keeping it clear. So let me know how the lighting is. In fact, real quick with the lighting, since I'm still messing with it, this is like warm. So let me just change the color temperature to like, this is like all the way up on the brightness scale. So it's like 7,000 Kelvin or whatever the rating is. So it's like daylight considered. So let me know if you like that a little better. Also, I'm playing with the overhead lights too. So this is daylight on the key light, and I'm gonna turn off my overhead lights. One sec. So yeah, that feels more like monitor glary. So let's go down to warm, but with this off. So let's go back down to that 3700. So yeah, this is 3700, no overhead lighting, just the front lighting, the key lighting, and the ring light. So definitely crisp, like, yeah, but I think the daylight's way too blue. So I like the warm light. And in fairness, the ISO on the camera is set. It's actually custom set since I'm dialing the color lighting to 3700. So this is a little smoother with the overhead lights off. I still have my desk strip off, so all the lighting's coming up front. I haven't mounted this little ring light yet, so I may like put that back there for some backlighting. I may get like an RGB light, so different things. Right now, this is just free floating on my desk. I've got a mount for it though below. So anyway, I'll leave it like this. The main thing was the audio. We know the video is spectacular. These DSLR cameras with the using them as a webcam is phenomenal. So I went a little higher end. I don't think you have to go that awesome. I know Wadden uses the A6000. It's probably $300 or $400 cheaper, but I didn't have a digital camera for kind of personal use. So now that we have a little girl, Izzy, I just wanted something, small, compact, we could take on trips. So I splurged to get the slightly better one. Okay, enough of the audio video setup. We're gonna leave it like this for now. I'll review the video myself later. But I agree. I think the warm colors are nicer. I'll tweak the overhead lighting on my own, but this is good enough for now. So let me go to share my screen mode. Again, if the audio or anything gets weird along the way, let me know. But let's start jumping into the code. There's two things I want to try to cover today if I have time, more like if I start to hear Izzy crying. So the first thing, most importantly, is Blueprint. Blueprint's been doing well. It's upticking on the stars and so forth. Everything's looking good there. But like I've said in some previous live streams, anytime I get to like 10 plus issues, I like to kind of go in and pick stuff up. So a couple people have reported some things. This Laravel cell one is still kind of pending. Look like with the new Laravel cell, which is a Docker setup to run locally, things kind of started potentially breaking, but I had a pending question on that, so I wasn't able to reproduce it. I don't necessarily use Sail, but I do use Docker, and I can run Blueprint inside of Docker without a problem. So we probably want to address that one today. This is the one I want to look at, and this could take 5 minutes. It could take all 30 minutes that I have. So the issue is the UUID column it's working, but actually we found out through a series of back and forth that when you set up use constraints in your Blueprint configuration, you actually get this additional foreign key reference, which is not correct. And that's because, just kind of knowing the internals, Blueprint thinks that that's a model reference, that UUID is like a reference to a model for whatever reason, and therefore it's throwing this additional use constraints thing and saying, oh, build that constraint because UUID is considered to be a model, which is not correct, of course. So, which again, through some back and forth, it wasn't doing it for me. Nathan has also been helping out a whole bunch. He said it wasn't really doing it for him. And then we figured out that eventually when the use constraints is on, this is when that problem occurs. So, first thing I want to do is write a failing test. Write a failing test for this with that use constraints, because all the current tests are passing because UUID is working correctly, which is good, but we're not getting that additional. I need to turn that off on Ecamm. Like sometimes when I switch, Alt Tab between things and I'm zooming, it'll actually zoom the screen. I found that out on one of my last screenshots. I wonder if there's a way to disable that. I'll look into it after the fact, but sorry about that. Let's stay off that screen. And like I said, let's go to Blueprint and let's do a git pull, because this is probably a bit outdated on this Mac. Yes, it is. And just to make sure everything's clean, let's run PHP unit, which I firmly believe everything's fine, of course. It is. So let's do a git checkout -b, and what was the number on this? 417, let's say fix 417. All right, cool. We're on our own branch, and let's get that kind of failing test set up. So let's fire up the old PHP Stormsville and get that, send my iMac into outer space, because it's going to start going big time with this new video 4K connection. Oh wow, it's been a while. Blueprint, where are you? There you are. Blueprint. Okay, so let's get that failing test going, and what I'm going to do is find, I don't know where, but we'll find wherever else we are doing a Blueprint, find, it's a little laggy here, let everything boot up. Let's find wherever we're sending off like a UUID in one of our tests. And this may not be, let's mask that to just .php files. Case sensitivity is good. Okay, so model key constraints, this looks like a good test to probably piggyback. Because the migrations, well, it is also a migration in fairness. Let's kind of take a peek. Let's take a peek at this UUID shorthand. UUID primary. It's been a little while, so I'm just kind of refamiliarizing myself with how these get used. Use constraints. Okay, so what is this? Should add foreign key constraint. Column name is ID. Column is foreign key true. There we go. Return if it's in array UUID. Okay, so there we go. So this method we've stumbled upon already is probably our issue. We probably need to add some additional logic here that says or fails the foreign key check, or something here that says and the UUID column is not, it doesn't say just UUID for the data type. But that's not where I want to be with my test. So let's go back. It parses the UUID shorthand. what is the UUID shorthand? Let's go look at that. There's so many little tricks with Blueprint that, like, I'm glad I wrote the documentation because I would have forgotten all of these, to be honest. Okay, so UUID is a shorthand for a primary key of a UUID, but what we have is not that. We have just a separate UUID column. So that's not exactly what we want to test. So it's not going to be in the Blueprint test. I think there was another UUID. And let's just check the YAML files. Let's start that way. UUID shorthand invalid relationship. Where does this get used? This is what Nathan was saying to use. UUID invalid relationship. Let's see where this is used. I'm going to close the chat for a minute so I can see what's going on my right side of my screen. And let's find model generator, migration generator. Okay, here's probably where we want to be. Okay, so timestamp create age cohorts table. Migrations is UU. Okay, so that's our draft file. That's the timestamp that should, or that's the name of the generated file that should come out. And then let's go look at this one now. Okay. So what we expect is just this. So I think this is where we would want to throw that. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so let's add this. I think we found a place we can kind of piggyback this new convention, and we'll say something like UUID shorthand. Is it a shorthand? It's not really a shorthand. It's just UUID does not generate relationship. Okay. So let's go back here and we'll copy paste that and we'll say UUID does not generate relationship. And let's just take what they have. It's nice and simple. It keeps the focus. That's what we want, right? And what we would expect is exactly what they have here. So let's go dump that, and here we'll say create VATs table, because that model was called VAT. And then here will be UUID does not generate relationship. All right, and that's going to be in migrations. So let's, whoa, don't move that. Let's go down here. We'll get the fixture set up for this as well. So that's going to be here. And then UUID does not generate relationship. Did we say relationship or relationships? Oh, goodness. All right, let's close all this other stuff down. Yeah, relationship. Okay. And then let's make this migration what we expect, which is here. And that's exactly it. It would not generate that. So right now, my expectation is this passes, because there's no configuration set. That was the kicker. We have to say that the constraints are false. So ideally, this just all passes. Oh, we have an exception because I probably don't have that name correct. So let's fix that. This is create VATs. That's what you get for copy pasting. But hey, it's fast. And we're all green. And that's expected because generically this should work. And that's kind of why we went back and forth on that issue in on GitHub, is because it's like, hey, this works, you know, took your example and got what we wanted. And of course they didn't know that they had set that. And after some back and forth, we figured that out, which is great. It was a good discussion. So this test works. That's not really our failure, but I want to throw it in there to prove that it works both ways, right? We don't want to like fix this so much that it broke the other way. So even though that's a green to green kind of test there, it is what we want to happen there. You know, and because of that, I really should say, Because of that, I probably will go back and change the names on that to not say does not generate relationship, because this is the test that should not generate the relationship. So I'll probably fix that naming here in a second. So output creates, I'm just seeing where I want to drop this. We definitely have a bunch of foreign key stuff here. What is that command in PHP Storm where you can see like the structure? Is it F12? Oh, of course, that's my volume. Function F12, function shift F12. Whoa, that was unexpected. Oh, there's structure. Yeah, structure is what I want, but I want to like toggle that. Maybe it's like command 8 or something weird. Anyway, let's see. Creates constraints, uses Pascal. I'm just seeing if there's any other like UUID in here. And there's not. So because there's not, we're just going to put it at the bottom. And we'll kind of just, we'll write this from scratch because it's been a while. So let's just write this from scratch for a minute. So we'll say output, this one's the one that does not generate relationship for UUID. I heard something in the chat. Let's see if someone knows. Command 7. Boom. Thank you. And why did I lose? Why did it put that on the... I had that on the right when we started this, and now it's on the left. I must, in the process of trying to understand how to move that, I must have targeted that the other way. Let's see here. Move to, I guess, right top? Yeah, okay. Good enough. Okay. So we've got our test. And let's see here. So just kind of like as a setup here, we basically want to enable use constraints, right? Yes. We want to make sure we enable that. Did I zoom in on accident? No, we're good. Want to enable this, and then we basically want to pass in the same UUID draft file, and then expect the input and output. So I think those, okay, so pass in UUID draft file, stub the IO, right? And then expect the fixture, right? Migration fixture. Okay, so this is kind of just like a little pseudocode, again, for me, getting back into it as well, but also for the new viewers. Hopefully that kind of helps. So what we want to do is we really just want to go up and look at our very basic, sorry for all the scrolling there, but we basically want to just look at our data provider. And we want to kind of start here because this is the simplest version of this test. And we know that from all that data that we're passing in, that the input and output is what we expect. So this is like our test base, if you will. So we can copy this and know that what it updates, what it does is effectively the same kind of test, basic test that we want to write. So let me copy this down here. I know I said I wasn't going to copy paste, but I want to get to that papercut PR for Laravel as well. So, geez, this test is huge. My goodness. All right, let's bring this in and go over it. Okay, so the migration pulls in a stub, the migration stub. So we want to make sure that we just allow that file IO happen since we're doing the file IO. We're going to set the test date for Carbon so we can reliably assume that the path comes in. So here's where we want to change this just a bit. So this path is going to need to change. Do we use path anywhere else? No, we don't. So we can just borrow this path from here. And we can see that we'll borrow it from here is where we want it. And we can see that in our path, we're stubbing this out to just give us that timestamp back, right? So once we replace that timestamp with what we want, we know that we get that kind of valid bit there. And in fact, we don't even need to like search and replace this. We could just do this in line. So just to kind of clean up this copy paste a bit, we can basically say our timestamp path is really whatever that is, right? So it's just the migration, whatever carbon now we stubbed, and then that way we know that both our test and our actual implementation code are locked in or frozen in time with that carbon timestamp. Okay, so we make sure that when we look for that migration, it doesn't already exist. I think this is because we auto-updated, we update your migration if the same one exists. So we'll just leave that alone. And then we expect to output the migration, the fixture that we want. So this fixture file is also going to get replaced with the same expectation, right? This does not generate bit there. All right, so we'll go back and we'll paste that. And then the definition we'll also want. Let's copy that, and then I think we should have all the setup we need. So we parse that and strip dashes. That's strange. Let's drop that down. We shouldn't need that. What did that do before? If definition's not equal to draft indexes.yaml, that's a little bit of like test logic, which I normally don't like. I wonder if I wrote that or if it was like contributed. Normally I don't like putting those things inside of tests because for this exact reason. Now I'm like, wait a second, when do we strip out dashes? So if definition's not equal to indices.yaml, let's look at indices.yaml. I'm curious. Indices.yaml. Indices. I need an in. I'm going to leave this off. Technically, we should be passing in true, but I don't think I put any dashes in my does not generate, so that's strange. I'm going to leave that alone. Okay, we analyze the tree, we get the tree back, and then we basically are going to assert that we created the same tree. Created timestamp, this subject output tree. Okay, yeah, this is interesting. So kind of a dense setup. Okay, so we stub the migration so the migration generator gets the same stub. We freeze the carbon timestamp so we can control the output of the file name. That's all good. We just say that the file doesn't exist so we don't run into any overwrite logic that Blueprint does to be helpful. And then finally, we make sure that when the output of the file system goes out, that is being saved as the timestamped bit and also matches our fixture. So that's kind of our expectation that the migration fixture is the same. We're clearly stubbing the IO. And then this is the last piece we do. So we pass in the UUID draft file. That's right here. So we say, hey, Blueprint, parse this, give me all the tokens, send those tokens to analyze, and the tree that we get back should say, created that particular migration. So that's just a little extra bit. We don't really care about that here, to be honest, but it's a one-line assertion. Why not keep it? So my expectation would be that if we run this and we didn't have any copy-paste bugs, we should just get, a passing test. But it looks like we're a little off for some reason. So no matching handler found for database migration. Today's date, create VATS table. So why did we not have that happen? Did I maybe put this timestamp bit in there wrong? So the timestamp's path, we freeze carbon, create VATS table. Let's isolate just this test. Make sure it was that test. It is, does not generate, so let's filter that. Okay. No matching handler found, same error, of course. So do we have some kind of difference in here? We've got a big increments. It's probably because the Laravel version is a bit different. So somewhere in here we go. We're going to want to mess with this config to kind of tell, we're going to want to do this to tell Blueprint to like be Laravel 8, because looking at this a little bit closely, big increments, that's our issue. It's why it doesn't match. It's all stubbed out correctly, but if we look really closely, this in our file is just ID, and that was only added, I think, in Laravel 7, not 6, and I think the default version of Blueprint is 6, or assumes Laravel 6. So we're going to want to tweak that first. So let's get this passing first. So I'm going to borrow this. And somewhere in here, I think we do like Laravel 8. Nope. Oh, there we go. Use Laravel 6. Okay. So do we have like a use Laravel 8 in here? No, we don't. Okay, then. Is the default use Laravel 8? That's interesting. What do we do in our default test? I guess we don't say anything. That is indeed our issue though, right? Not cohort. Where's... Yeah, that's our issue. See, we're saying ID. So we got to fix that real quick. I'm just curious why our test didn't automatically assume Laravel 8 though. But I'm certain that's the problem. Oh, because we copied the wrong file. Copy paste strikes again. All right, let's run this and we pass. Good. That's where we want to be. Okay, now to finally, after all that setup, make this fail. So let's go to config, and we want to turn on this line for our test. So let's go back to where we were, and let's turn this on, and now I would expect a failure. And there we have it. After a good 10 minutes of kind of refamiliarizing ourselves with the code, but also writing good tests that kind of help confirm this, we have the exact same problem that was reported in our bug. So if we scroll all the way back to the top, there it is. Table foreign UUID references UUID on UUIDs on delete cascade. And that's exactly the line that was reported in the bug. Perfect. And we've got this schema, enable, disable, all that junk, which of course we wouldn't have if this wasn't being generated. So we have our failing test. All right, I heard some chat. Let me go see what's going on there. Oh, hey Adrian, what's going on? Okay, let's get this to pass. Okay, so my guess is, if we go back to the migration generator, I'm going to close down some of this other noise here. If we go to the migration generator, my guess is we're probably getting right here. And because we've filtered down just this test, I'm just going to throw out like a little dump. I think I have the dump command. Yes, we do. And so we'll just do a little dump, and we'll say like here, right? I'm curious, are we here because it's thinking it's a foreign key, or are we here because it falls back on that UUID? So that's the piece I kind of want to figure out. Is it the foreign key that's the problem, or is it this line of code that's the problem? I think it's this line of code. Here's my test. So I'll just call this proof instead. And let's see if I'm right or wrong. And I think I saw proof. Yes, I did. That's the proof that we wanted. That is indeed our issue, which we kind of knew as soon as we started the stream, but let's clean this up. So it's not as simple as saying if you're a UUID alone, right? If the column name is UUID and you're a UUID, it's kind of like we can't just assume that. I kind of forgot what column looks like. So let's go on the model of column and see if there's any kind of like has reference or has related model or any kind of method like that we could also check and say, hey, look, you can't just be like an ID field or a UUID. You also kind of have to have like a model reference that's not just UUID, right? That's our problem. So let's use command 7, which we learned for the structure, and let's just kind of see what we have. So we have name, data type, attributes, modifier, is foreign key, default value, is nullable, and is unsigned. So we don't have kind of the exact thing I was thinking of, but this is foreign key is close. And we'll say here, collect modifiers filter is array modifier and key equals foreign, or modifier is foreign. So if you have a foreign key reference, then go for it. Here's what I'm curious about. I'm kind of curious if this just passes, if I drop that, which of course it probably would. It does. So what I'm curious about is how much breaks when I just do that. So let's take off our filter. Nothing breaks. Nothing breaks, which is kind of what I was worried about. I'm not worried about it because it's wrong. I'm worried about it because I'm wondering if there's some combination of writing Blueprint where that was needed. So here's my thought process if we think about this line. A UUID column, when you wrote a UUID column, you would have to say that it's a foreign reference. Let me bring up the docs so I'm not just like talking this out and we can see some examples. So let's go to Blueprint, Laravel shift. Hold on just 1 second. Looks like someone might be at the door. Let me just check the ring. All right, good stuff. Just the mailman. Okay, let's relationships. So let's kind of look at this for a second. I don't want the relationships. I want like model references. Here we go. Okay, so defining models, types of modifiers, keys, relationships, shorthands. So we have the shorthand of ID, keys and indices. Okay, here we go. Within the column definition, you may specify a key or index using ID column type or foreign index unique, whatever, blah, 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 blah. The foreign modifier will also generate the necessary code to create an index on the column. By default, Blueprint will automatically infer foreign key references for the column name, just as it does, for example, a column name of user ID would imply a reference to the ID column of the users table. If you are not following Laravel's conventions, you may set the attribute of foreign modifier. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's just copy this for a second. And we know that all these work, right? This is outlined in the docs. So, this is set up explicitly. This UID, we can always pass foreign. So if we pass foreign in, then we know that we're going to return true up here. We would never get down to this line anyway. Now, all my tests pass with dropping UUID, and this works as expected and technically would fix the bug. But here's the part that I'm worried about. What if we wanted Blueprint to support this, right? In a way, Blueprint should be smart enough to do this. So let's back up just a second. Let me copy this line. Right now, Blueprint's smart enough, according to documentations, to do this line, to figure out, oh, you said ID and that column name is user underscore ID, then that means it's a reference to the user model. It's a foreign reference to that, right? Or long-handed, you could say that, or if you weren't following Laravel's conventions or had like a special relationship, you can define these yourself, even down to the ID in which it references. So what we lost, which I'm surprised isn't tested, what we lost is this. By taking what I just took out, I think we lost this. The fact that it would generate a foreign key reference if you said UUID and the other side was not simply just UUID. I think that's the catch, right? We would want to avoid this, but we would still want to support something like this, right? But what we have today, right now, just our own test, that one we would ignore, right? Because it's technically not like the syntax in which Blueprint would follow conventions. You would technically need to write what we have down here, which is specifying foreign, and then therefore we would get caught in that is foreign key. So all that is to say, going back, that this is checkboxed. So let's see if I can just do a little checkbox. So that's good. We solved that, but this one is what we lost. I don't know if there's a red X or times or what do they call that one? It's like close or delete maybe. What the hell is the name of that thing? It's like cross. Yeah, there it is. I don't know why it didn't come up with X. So this one's, we lost that. And I'm really surprised that this is not. Let's unmask files. Ah, see, model key constraints. There we go. There we go. We automatically put 4 in there. Technically, let's prove this. What if we did something like this, right? And just let's change this to something simple like product ID, right? That's a little bit real. And we say UUID. This is something we would want to support. Now, of course, this is going to fail because the migrations aren't going to match, but let's just kind of see what that failure looks like. We had a lot of failures. Good. Okay, so we make the UUID, but it's not constrained anywhere the way everything else was, and that's kind of what we lost. So what I want to do is actually put that back, and I'm not necessarily planning on fixing this today, but I just kind of want to demonstrate these failures with it. So of course our test fails again, but going back up to that product, it actually never even worked anyway. See, I would have expected it to pick it up here, but it doesn't anyway. It doesn't anyway. So I need to drive that out. I think Blueprint should do that, but I'm going to open a separate issue for that. And let's just fix what we have here. Let's go back to total pass mode, and let's get this fixed up. Whoops, what did I break? Did I save everything? Oh, I killed that migration. My bad. That draft file is wrong. We should be back to green now. Great, there it is. Okay, so this fixes the current issue that's open. I'm going to open another one off stream, and let's see what's left. Okay, yeah, let's do that. So git add -p. Let's make sure I didn't leave anything random out there. So we dropped UUID because right now Blueprint, even though it should support the syntax, it's not really documented that if you use a UUID, that it's automatically going to infer the model relationship. And there seems to be more code than just what I thought for that to be supported. I thought it was simply not tested, but it actually needs to have some code in order to do that, which I think is a cool feature, and it should do that. So I'm going to open an issue, and we're going to bring that UUID bit back to life, but have it be working the right way. So for today, to fix our issue, that helps. We've got a strict failing test to make this help. And I did say that I was going to clean up these names real quick. So I'm going to say yes for now, just for the purposes of this stream, and do a git add dot. And let's just do a git commit -m and say do not generate foreign key for, what do we want to call this? Like, it's like a generic UUID or something. We'll just say simple UUID column. That's probably a really long, that's probably too long. Amend. How long are we? 50 on the nose. Look at that. I like to keep it under 50 because otherwise it cuts off on most services, like Git services. I think 55 is like the technical limit, but we're right at 50, so perfect. Git push origin head. Let's see this go up. Okay, I'll leave it up to the audience for a second while that's going up. I can do one of two things. I can attempt to start writing the fixes for supporting that UUID. I doubt I'll get it all the way done. That's probably more intensive than we think. Or I can switch gears and work on the Laravel papercut PR. I think I can definitely get that done. That should just be a few minutes. So let me know in the chat which one you would like to see for those that are still live with me. And in the meantime, I'm going to go open a PR for this real quick, just to let it start running and make sure everything passes. So for now, I'll just say something like closes, what was it, 417? Yep. And then we'll make a note for that here in a second. So I'm going to let all the builds start running, make sure this doesn't break on, Mac or Ubuntu or whatever. And in the chat, let me know which one you would rather see, more Blueprint or switch gears to Laravel papercut. All right, we got a vote for number 2, which is, I assume, Laravel papercut. Let's see what other votes come in. And while we're waiting, I'll just go ahead and back up a directory and go into the framework, git checkout master. We'll probably need to put this into Laravel 9. Let's go read the docs on that. I always forget their branching strategy. I think master, Laravel framework, papercut. All right, cool. Seems like papercut's gonna win, so I'm gonna keep getting this downloaded. But if you wanna see the other thing, let me know. I think master is considered, it's compatible with 8.x, but semantic versioning wise, this would change a method signature. And if you change a method signature, I think, again, semantic version wise, that's a breaking change. So on the surface, while this would never break for users, I think technically this is a breaking change. So I'm going to push this into master to be merged with Laravel 9, which should be out in March. So it's just a couple weeks anyway. So git fetch upstream. This is going to get all the stuff from Laravel repo. And then, yeah, master is 9.x right on. And so let's do git pull upstream master. All right, cool. And then we'll do git checkout -b default UUID name. And if you watch some of our previous live streams, this is like the exact same thing we did last time, but just with the IP address column, I think it was, right? I think IP, there's like some kind of IP address column. Let's just take a look at that. IP address. Yeah, there we go. So what I want to do is the same thing, which what we did here, which is IP address, MAC address, whatever. I want to default that column name for the UUID one as well. Yeah, UUID column. I just want to do the same exact thing here. I was actually doing this the other day, and I just felt like it was the same as like IP address ID, right? ID just makes a column of ID. That's the primary key. I just felt like this was like the same kind of concept, and I used a UUID column for something the other day when I was generating a new migration or whatnot. I don't use them that often in my apps, but I think it's good practice if you have like a distributed app or a very, very large app, or don't want the sequential numbers or whatever. Anyway, the point is, I just felt like it should do this. It should just call it UUID. Like, what's the problem with that, right? Just nice little tiny papercut developer experience, keeping it Laravel real, just nice and clean, less typing, smooth, fluent. So just want that to happen as well. And this is kind of weird. Create a new UUID column on the table with a foreign key constraint. So this probably should get it as well. That should probably be UUID. Although that's kind of excuse me, create a new UUID on a column with a foreign key constraint. We probably don't want to set it there, to be honest. I'm not familiar with foreign UUID. That probably makes some assumptions about the column name in the foreign column definition. Let's take a look. There's probably some stuff in here that, yeah, pluralizes the name and does a bunch of stuff. Yeah, I don't think we actually want to do that for foreign UUID. I think you need to be specific about the column name you pass in there. So yeah, that doesn't make sense to default it there. But I think if you're making a generic UUID column and it's called UUID, that's just a little helpful thing. All right, I'm going to shut up about it now, and let's run the tests, which should all pass, because we haven't made any tests for this. And again, technically speaking, it's not really a breaking change, because unless you were passing this something before, which was undocumented, you know, it should all just pass. So it's no big deal. But we know we want to update this based on our is IP address changes that we made before. So if we go look at like the grammar, this is all kind of the same thing. So we just need to find test adding, or let's see if there's like a UUID in here somewhere. There we go. Boom. Perfect. We just want the same thing. And the thing is, we have to do this for each different each different SQL grammar. So let's say defaults, I think we call this defaults column name. Defaults column name. Yeah, defaults column name. I just wanted to be explicit. Okay, so when we call new blueprint, users, totally fine. We're going to take that off now. We don't pass anything in. And the grammar should be unchanged. Alter table users add UUID, and we just call that char36 apparently, and not null. So that's what we should get back. This is our savior. So let's filter, whoops. The Redis extension, why are you failing? Oh, those are all the skip tests. Oh, this is going to be way noisy. I don't even know if my scroll history is going to go back this far. Test with route caching enabled. That should not be related to me, but I'll check out master before I submit this PR and make sure it works. Let's get this added and tested first. So let me filter those, and we should see that this passes. And just for giggles, let me make this like 40 and just see that it fails, just to make sure we're on the right track. So good, exactly. So now we just need to do this for all of the additional schemas. So let's just kind of copy, let's not copy paste. Let's go to, where else are these grammar tests? Here's Postgres schema grammar, UUID. Let's just stay easy. We'll copy this, and we're going to dump out foo, and we'll say defaults column name, and we'll change this to UUID. Make sure those all pass again. Perfect. Next is what? The SQLite. So UUID. Cool. Copy the same thing. This is pretty straightforward stuff here. Defaults, column name. Drop that. Change that to UUID. Let's go ahead and get the SQL server. And let's do UUID. Copy that. Paste. Kill that. Defaults column name. And change this to UUID. Awesome. Okay, make sure all four of those pass, and then just for giggles, I want to make sure defaults column name. Let's just make sure there's not some other like grammar that I missed. Postgres, SQLite, SQL Server. I can't think of any other grammars that are out of the box right now that are SQL based. So, and to prove that, we can just say something like grammar test. Abstract schema grammar test. Does this do a UUID? No, it doesn't. So there's not even a test in that one. I think we're good. I am going to close that. Let's run these again and see if we still get a failure. And while those are running, let's close all this down. I'll bring up the chat. Adrian, I would also add it to foreign UUID. I'll put it in the comments for the PR. I feel like that's probably unnecessary because the foreign key relationship that it builds is dependent upon the column name itself. So to default that to UUID would like make a very weird assumption about what the foreign key name is in the other table, right? Like what's the name of that? Because if you defaulted to UUID and you thought, oh, well, as a developer, I don't need to pass anything in because I didn't need to pass anything into UUID. I just feel like that could create a little friction, a little confusion. And this is all about like fixing a paper cut and not necessarily like, changing too much behavior, so to speak. Like I want it to be easier for the easy case, not easy for everything, if that makes sense. It's just kind of an extra thought in my head. Okay, we still got a failure. Let's do this. Get at -p, smiley face. So we're going to default UUID column name. Again, I'll put it in the notes about defaulting it for foreign key, but I just don't feel like that makes sense based on the foreign key reference name that it would end up generating. So it's just to kind of really drive that home. Let's scroll down here. Okay, so add foreign key UUID. Notice that it adds this constraint, right? We simply pass in foo to that, and based on foo, it knows that like, to add this company ID and like all these other things, right? It infers, the reference to companies. So if I defaulted that to be where you didn't have to pass anything in, well, like now it's going to assume like UUID is in the UUIDs table, and it's going to look a lot like that blueprint thing we were just working on, and that's not right. Like you have to pass a column name in here because it generates that model reference. So I don't think we can be helpful there is the bottom line. That'd be cool though. So let's see, did I do some kind of like default? Yeah, there we go. Let's just copy the same thing. Why not? Default UUID column name. Git push origin head. Let's push this to my fork. And then I'm going to check out, before we end the stream, I'm going to check out master and see if there's still a failure. Git pull upstream master. All right, we're up to date. Vendor, bin, PHP unit. I just want to make sure somehow randomly I didn't implement or introduce that failure. So let's just give this just another second. Skip tests. Yeah, there it was. Yeah, there was an exception up there. And I imagine if I scrolled all the way up, it'd probably be that Redis bit. So, okay, so I'm going to open this PR in just a little bit. I'll post on that on Twitter, and probably next week sometime, I'll maybe try to do another short live stream where we fix that UUID reference as well. So thanks everybody for joining live. I also appreciate the feedback on the new video setup. Again, hopefully the echo wasn't too bad. I'm going to listen to this myself afterwards and see how things were. But definitely the video is awesome. Super great with this new DSLR as a webcam. And the lighting too, of course, helps, which I'm still going to clean that up a bit. But I agree. I think the warm light is the best. So thanks again for joining live. Sorry for the delay, new parent. Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to get back into doing these maybe every other week. So thanks, and see you all next time.